Why don't we appreciate Ancient Evil? Now, when I say we, I'm referring to the general populace. Of course, there are Ancient Evil fans out there. I'm one of them. But when we, as a collective whole, discuss the greatest zombies maps of all time, Origins commonly pops up, Mob of the Dead is Welter, Eisendrache here and there. But Ancient Evil is never ever in that discussion. Now, of course, the title is a rhetorical question, but if we were to answer it literally, I would say that one of the major contributors is the fact that Black Ops 4, in and of itself, wasn't very popular. It wasn't nearly as successful as previous Zombies installments. The game was overlooked, and with it, all of its maps. Whether they were actually good or bad, didn't really matter. Most of these maps weren't played very often. And after a very unsuccessful and poorly marketed DLC 1, people weren't sticking around for DLC 2, which was Ancient Evil. Nobody really seemed to give this map too much attention. So I guess I answered the question. The video's over. Goodbye. I am so kidding. I'm just pulling your peach. I will be collecting ad revenue from each and every one of you today. Let's discuss Ancient Evil. Let's talk about its brilliance and why, if you don't already love this map, you should love this map. Why we should appreciate Ancient Evil just a little bit more, despite it being plagued by Black Ops 4. If you're not familiar with this series, I analyze every single Treyarch Zombies map. I've previously done World at War all the way up to Black Ops 3, and we're almost done with Black Ops 4, therefore the entire series, because we have nothing else to discuss, unless you want me to discuss non-Treyarch Zombies. If you want to get into that kinky stuff, we can do that, but otherwise, I don't think I'm going to. Leave a like on this video if you're excited, and also make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. We will be tackling Alpha Omega, which should be a field day. Anyways, let's get into this map. I'm going to spend just about every second of this video talking about Ancient Evil's greatness and everything I love about this map. So before I do that, let me get the very few things I don't like about this map out of the way. Let me talk about the very few negative qualities first. That way I can give the people who don't like this map a little bit of recess time before they have to sit down in the classroom. I have a few minor complaints with this map. Number one, the skeletons. Definitely not as bad as the Nosferatus from Dead of the Night. Not nearly as irritating, but they can be a little bit tricky. When I see one skeleton spawn in, I think to myself, that's pretty cool. When I see more than one skeleton spawn in, I think, well shit. And that's when I have to stop everything I'm doing, disregard my current train of zombies, turn around, shoot them in the head because that's the only way you can kill them. Otherwise they respawn. And it's a total momentum breaker. And their movement is inconsistent. At times, they're limping. At other times, they're sprinting. You never really know. They have a very awkward way of shuffling around the map. So I'm not a huge fan of the skeletons. I just wish they would reduce the quantity, but they're not as bad as the Nosferatus. And while we're on the subject, the other boss zombie of this map, the Gigantes, not quite sure if that's how you pronounce it. I don't care to Google it. The four-armed Greek dude that spawns in with a shield. Not a huge fan. He doesn't add too much to the map. Probably does to Greek mythology, but in terms of actual gameplay, he's not too big of a presence. Let's take a look at my favorite boss zombie, the Margwa. A perfectly balanced boss. When this thing spawns in, you think, oh shit, I definitely have to deal with this. But it's not too urgent. As long as you don't get too close to it, it doesn't have a distance attack, you'll be just fine. You can hoard it with the rest of the zombies and slowly chip away at it. This guy is just like that, except A, I don't believe he gives you as many points for killing him. B, he has a distance attack, which complicates things. And C, it's not very clear when he spawns in. He sort of just stumbles in the map and, oh, there he is. I like the idea, but it felt forced. It didn't feel like this was a great zombie boss, but it's, again, a minor complaint. What else don't I like about this map? I would say the list ends there. I'm not a huge fan of the Chaos storyline as a whole, but I felt as though this was the best portion of it, which I will delve into later. Yeah, I would say that's about it. So now I'm gonna suck off Ancient Evil for the rest of the video. Every great zombies map has a great atmosphere, and Ancient Evil is no exception. We'll start with the color scheme. There are multiple color schemes at work here. The majority of the map has reds and yellows and oranges, which really gives off a vibrant and warm tone. It's really soothing to the eye, but there are also some parts of the map with some greens with the forestation, and you know, you have some blues here and there, and it's just a very colorful and vibrant map. The map takes place in the lost city of Delphi, so along with that naturally came the Greek mythology, more specifically the architecture. I mean, from the get-go, right? You spawn in the Temple of Apollo, this giant grand building with a golden Apollo upon a snake. I mean, it's pretty badass. The majority of the map has these fantastic buildings and structures. I think it looks really cool. If you just walk around the map, you will notice a plethora of statues and structures in reference to Greek mythology, whether they be gods or just prominent characters within the lore. Unfortunately, I, Tim Hansen, don't have a master's degree in Greek mythology, if that even exists. But even as someone who knows the bare minimum and understands just the prominent characters, I still very much appreciate it, and I do think it makes for a great atmosphere, a unique one as well. And it gives us a history lesson all the while. I always applaud zombies maps that manage to integrate history into the gameplay or just the map itself. Whether it's fictional or not, it doesn't entirely matter. I just appreciate the effort, and I really think it worked. Pretty much every facet of this map revolves around Greek mythology. It's not just limited to the atmosphere. Like I said, the gameplay itself has heavy ties with the lore. May I add, if you're able to integrate real history, a real story into the gameplay and give it further purpose, then you've done something correctly. That means you've made a great zombies map. I applaud Treyarch for doing that. The gauntlets, the shield, the Pegasus strike, the god statues, the boss zombies, though I'm not a huge fan of, the traps even, pretty much everything about the gameplay revolves around the story, which is great. Not only is the gameplay reinforced by history and a story, but it's also some pretty fucking good gameplay in and of itself. I could play this map for hours and hours on end without growing tired of it. Look no further than the gauntlets. Now, this is a format that was used in maps like Origins and Der Eisendrache, where you have 4 elemental wonder weapons, each with varying quests to obtain them. Not everybody loves this format, but it is a format that has proven to be wildly successful. If you follow a format that maps like Origins and Der Eisendrache have, then you're in good company. That means you're probably doing something right. It starts off pretty simple. You're in search for a glowing purple aura. When you find that, you find the empty gauntlet hand, and that's when you can begin the process. You then go on a quest to find 3 different parts scattered around the map, and then when you bring those back to the statue, you then test your wonder weapon to see if you like it. In other words, you prove to that respective god that you're worthy of wielding such a gauntlet, which I think is a pretty cool concept, right? So you get this upgraded gauntlet, not too difficult to obtain. You might need to look up a tutorial, but otherwise, I think it's a pretty simple process. And the best part about it is there are 4 varying gauntlets with 4 different elements, which adds not only a lot of replayability value to the map, but it also adds a personality to the map because you and a bunch of buddies can hop on and select which element best suits you and your personality. It adds so much to the map to have different wonder weapons with different personalities. For example, you and I hop in a lobby. Today, I'm feeling the Gauntlet of Hemera, and today you're feeling the Gauntlet of Gaia. The next day, when we play Ancient Evil again, perhaps I'm feeling the Gauntlet of Gaia and you're feeling the Gauntlet of Hemera. We can swap, and not to mention, if we build all 4 of them, we can sort of swap and alternate throughout all of them however many times we want. We can use them at our own leisure. It constantly stirs up the gameplay and makes things interesting. You're a lot less likely to quit a game of Ancient Evil when you have 4 different badass wonder weapons than if you were on a map with one singular boring wonder weapon. And building these gauntlets doesn't feel like slave labor. You just have to get into the routine. Once you've built it a couple of times in the past, you get used to it and it feels like nothing, just like any other process. And the best part is, you are not required to build them. In other words, you are not punished by choosing to not obtain these gauntlets. They're ideal for your survival. You're definitely going to want them, but if you choose not to in one particular game, you can survive just as well. There are quite a few zombies maps out there where you feel as though you're obligated to do everything in order to have a legitimate survival. But on Ancient Evil, you don't have to go that far because the 2 necessities, turning on the Sentinel artifact and activating Pack-a-Punch, are simple. If the 2 bare necessities of the map are easy and accessible for noobs, beginners, and everyone alike, then you have a good recipe for a good map. I mean, to turn on the Sentinel artifact, you open, 3 doors and activate it? It's not difficult whatsoever. And to activate Pack-a-Punch, you simply grab the Golden Bridle, use the Pegasus, it brings you to the other part of the map, free the 2 birds. I think it's a really unique quest as well, but it's simple and straightforward. Beginners can hop in this map, conceptualize it easily, and do the bare essentials without having to go the extra mile. That's why Ancient Evil works. That's why this format works. Even maps like Origins and Der Eisendrache that have that similar format. You can hop on a game of Origins, not even think about the stabs, and just go straight to Pack-a-Punch and have a pretty good time, I would say. Same thing with Der Eisendrache. You could totally disregard the bows, go straight for Pack-a-Punch, and power is also very easy to turn on. Beginners are not punished for choosing not to go the extra mile and obtain all of these crazy wonder weapons. They can do what they're comfortable with and do the bare minimum and feel like they're not at a disadvantage. This is a brilliant format, rewarding people that do go the extra mile, but not punishing those who don't. Some Zombies maps just don't get that right, but Ancient Evil got that right. Ancient Evil's design is also fantastic. I'm not gonna lie, initially it was a little confusing, but I very quickly picked up on it and realized it's just two halves. There are two halves to this map. You have the mainland, where you spawn in the area that we're all very familiar with, and you then have the center of the world portion of the map, in which you get there via Pegasus. The Pegasus is, of course, a vessel to get there, similarly to the dragons from Gorod Krovi. I thought that was a very interesting choice, and it worked. I mean, it's a really cool concept. The cutscene in which you ride the Pegasus there drags a little bit. It's 1 to 2 minutes long, but the good part is you can fast travel back and forth after that instead of riding the Pegasus each and every time, which I think is relieving, of course. Ancient Evil's design is one of a kind. It's super unique. It's not like any other Zombies map that I've ever played. The majority of maps are one singular symmetrical entity in which you sort of stay in. But with Ancient Evil, you have two different worlds. The juxtaposition between the two is nuts. I mean, on the mainland, you have a much brighter and happier tone. Things feel a lot lighter, but then you get to the other portion of the map and things are literally a lot darker and it feels grim. Thankfully though, both sides of the map are colorful and aesthetically pleasing, regardless of its lighting. Now, it is very easy to screw this sort of design up by making one side of the map very significant and the other not. You don't want to make the map lopsided, but thankfully both sides of the map are essential for the gameplay. Each contain 2 of the 4 gauntlets. On the regular side of the map, you have the majority of the perks, you also have the Sentinel artifact, and you have the shield pieces. But you can't just stay here for the whole game if you want to get to Pack-a-Punch, because Pack-a-Punch is in the other part. You also have the Pegasus strike pieces there. So you're encouraged to explore the entirety of the map. It encourages you to move around and not stick in one location. You can have a preference and you can prefer one part of the map, but you got to explore all of it, which is why this design worked. It could have flopped very easily, but I applaud Ancient Evil for adding enough value to each side of it and not making it one-sided. I don't have any major complaints with the spacing or the flow of the map. I will say on the main part of it, it can feel a bit linear because really everything is just pushing you downhill towards the very bottom where the Pegasus is. I've noticed that, but that is not a major issue. I don't feel suffocated on this map. There's definitely enough space to horde zombies. The spacing is just fine. The design in general is great, honestly, and unique above all. When I play Ancient Evil, I don't feel like I'm playing a different design. I feel like I'm playing Ancient Evil's design because it's unique and it stands out. So I really appreciate that. We can't talk about this map without talking about the story behind it. We, of course, continue our Chaos story. The final chapter of our Chaos story, as we know it, we could get some in the future. I sort of hope not. And I sort of hope not because, well, personally, it's just an opinion here, I'm not very interested in it. I'm not very captivated by it. I think the characters are meh. Really, the entire premise of the Chaos storyline with the cult and all that bullshit, I'm just not very interested. It's all sort of just meh to me. But I will say Ancient Evil was definitely the best portion of it. It definitely had the most character development, and it's the ending, so naturally it's sort of the most emotional part of it, if that makes any sense. And the implementation of the Greek mythology definitely makes it the more interesting part to me, with Medusa and the Oracle and, you know, the Pegasus and Perseus, which is sort of the boss fight. I thought that was really cool. The Easter egg is pretty cool. I've only done it once. I did it when the map launched and I haven't touched it since, and I'm not gonna lie, I was sort of dragged through it by my buddy Plus Johnny, so I don't have much recollection of it, if I'm being entirely fair. So what I guess I'm trying to say is, though I didn't despise the Chaos storyline, I also wasn't a very big fan of it. It didn't really help Ancient Evil's case, but it didn't hurt it either. I would say it was sort of a neutral, fluffed story that was sort of interesting, sort of not. If you came here to hear me talk about the Chaos storyline, you're in the wrong place, my friend. I am not a savant when it comes to this stuff. I'm very familiar with Aether, but not Chaos. wasn't particularly interested. But just because I wasn't a fan of the Chaos storyline, and just because I wasn't a fan of Black Ops 4 Zombies in general, doesn't mean that I can't be a fan of Ancient Evil. I appreciate its beauty in design, atmosphere, and gameplay. I think we, as a Zombies community, as a collective whole, should appreciate Ancient Evil just a little bit more. Again, I understand the circumstances are a little bit tough. I mean, you don't want to appreciate a map like Ancient Evil in a game that was plagued with issues, and you don't want to appreciate Ancient Evil after having such an underwhelming DLC 1. It's really difficult to, but I think we should all just keep it in mind when we consider the greatest Zombies maps of all time. I hope I pleaded my case. I think Ancient Evil is a beautiful map, and that is my analysis. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. You're not going to want to miss the next episode, which will be Alpha Omega. Then after that will be Tag der Toten, and then that's the end of it. Also, apparently, nearly half of you aren't getting notifications, so that's awesome. Please make sure to click the notification bell just in case. Double click it, whatever the fuck you gotta do. I mean, it's a little bit ridiculous that this is happening, but yeah, my views have been dipping because YouTube's like, nah, fuck you, we're not gonna send out notifications. So anyways, I hope you guys have a phenomenal day, and I gotta go. Stay awesome.